Evelyn stood in the grand kitchen of their luxurious suburban home, the soft hum of the dishwasher filling the silence. The house was immaculate, a picture-perfect reflection of the life she had built with Raymond. On the surface, they were a perfect family. Her husband, a successful businessman, always busy, always in control. Their two daughters, Amelia, a bright and ambitious 20-year-old, and little Sophie, an innocent 3-year-old, filled their home with laughter and love. Yet, lately, Raymond had become distant. His once predictable work schedule had become erratic, his business trips more frequent, his presence at home a rare occurrence. When he was there, he was emotionally absent, offering nothing but brief, detached conversations. Evelyn had convinced herself it was just stress from work, that she was overthinking things. But deep inside, an unease settled in her chest like a weight she couldn't shake. That evening, as she sorted through laundry in their bedroom, something unusual caught her eye. Inside the pocket of Raymond's suit jacket was a crisp receipt from an upscale restaurant, one they had never visited together. Her fingers trembled as she pulled it out, scanning the details. The date was recent, the bill extravagant. Alongside it, a small velvet jewelry box, empty as if whatever had been inside had already been gifted. Her heart pounded. Had he bought something for her? An anniversary gift? Their anniversary had passed months ago without acknowledgement. An icy realization crept into her mind. Was there someone else? She exhaled shakily, gripping the evidence in her hands. She needed answers, but was she truly ready to face the truth? Late one evening, Evelyn sat in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind restless with unanswered questions. Raymond had left in a hurry earlier, forgetting his phone on the nightstand, a rare opportunity. Her hands trembled as she picked it up, hesitating only for a second before unlocking it. She had never gone through his phone before, but tonight, she needed to know. Her heart sank as she scrolled through his call history. A single number appeared over and over, called at different hours, sometimes late at night, sometimes early in the morning. Her stomach twisted. Who was this? A business partner? A colleague? Or was it the truth she had been dreading? The next morning, she confronted him. "Raymond, who is this?" she asked, holding up the phone screen with the mysterious number. His expression hardened instantly. "Are you seriously going through my phone now?" he snapped, yanking it from her hands. "This is ridiculous, Evelyn. You're imagining things." "I'm not imagining anything," she shot back, her voice shaky but firm. "You call this number every day. Who is she?" Raymond scoffed. "God, Evelyn, you've always been insecure. Maybe if you had something better to do than spy on me, we wouldn't be having this conversation." The dismissal stung, but she wasn't backing down. That night, when Raymond left again without an explanation, she sat at the kitchen table and dialed the number herself. A woman answered. Her voice was soft, almost amused. "Hello?" Evelyn swallowed hard. "Who are you?" A short silence. Then the woman laughed lightly. "Oh, you must be Evelyn." Evelyn's throat tightened. "How do you know my name?" "Raymond talks about you," the woman said smoothly. "But not in the way you'd like." Evelyn's grip on the phone tightened. "Are you—" "If your husband loved you, he wouldn't be with me," the woman interrupted. Her voice was eerily calm, as if she had been waiting for this call. "You should accept it and move on." Evelyn's chest ached as the woman continued, her words slicing through her like a blade. "I don't care what you think. This isn't your problem anymore." The call ended, leaving Evelyn staring at the darkened screen, her heart pounding. When Raymond returned that night, she was waiting. The moment he stepped inside, she held up the phone. "I called her," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. His expression flickered for only a second before he smirked. So? she repeated, her voice rising. That's all you have to say? Raymond chuckled, shaking his head. Evelyn, grow up. Men like me, we have options. You think you can control me? You can't. The words struck her harder than any slap. For years, she had told herself he loved her, that he cared. But standing in front of him now, watching the complete lack of remorse in his eyes, she realized the truth. There was no love here, no respect. Just a man who saw her as nothing more than an afterthought. She felt like the walls of her perfect suburban home were closing in on her, suffocating her. I know everything now, she whispered, voice trembling. But what am I supposed to do? Raymond's absences became longer, his presence at home nothing more than a fleeting shadow. He no longer made excuses, no longer pretended. There was no need. He had stopped caring about how his actions affected Evelyn or their daughters. Nights stretched into mornings without him, and when he did return, he barely acknowledged her. His suit would carry the scent of a perfume she didn't own, his shirts freshly pressed as if he had never truly left another woman's embrace. Evelyn tried to ignore the sinking feeling in her chest, but reality kept clawing its way in. Their bank account was bleeding. Late one evening, as she went through their finances, she found transaction after transaction she couldn't explain. Luxury hotel stays, extravagant dinners, jewelry stores. She gripped the paper in trembling hands, her stomach twisting into knots. When she confronted Raymond, he didn't even look up from his phone. "Where is all our money going?" she demanded. "Don't worry about it," he said flatly. "I'll handle it." Her breath caught. "We're supposed to handle things together." Raymond let out a short laugh, shaking his head. "I don't have time for this, Evelyn." The words cut deeper than she expected. He wasn't just cheating on her, he was dismantling their life piece by piece. She barely slept after that. Nights passed in restless torment and food lost all taste. The weight of betrayal crushed her, leaving her exhausted and fragile. Her eldest daughter, Amelia, withdrew from her father completely. Once his pride and joy, she barely spoke to him now. But the worst moment came when little Sophie tugged at Evelyn's sleeve one night, looking up with wide, innocent eyes. "Mommy, where's Daddy?" Evelyn's throat tightened as she forced a smile. "He's working, sweetheart." But inside, she knew the truth. He wasn't working. He was with her. Then, the final blow came. That evening, Raymond came home early, his face devoid of emotion. He walked into the living room, tossing his jacket onto the couch, and looked straight at Evelyn. "I want a divorce." For a moment, she thought she had misheard him. "What?" "I said I want out." He sighed as if she were a burden. "And I'm keeping the house. Everything is in my name anyway." The room tilted slightly. He wasn't just leaving her. He was throwing her out, erasing her existence like she had never mattered. Her fingers clenched into fists. "You can't just take everything." Raymond smirked. "Watch me." The fire inside her reignited, burning away the weakness she had let consume her. "No," she said, her voice steady. "Not this time." For years, she had let him control the narrative, let him decide what she could and couldn't have, but not anymore. Raymond had underestimated her. He wanted to destroy her, but this time she was ready to fight back. Evelyn sat in the dimly lit kitchen, her fingers wrapped around a cup of tea that had long since gone cold. The weight of Raymond's words still echoed in her mind. Divorce. He had said it so easily, as if their years together meant nothing, as if she meant nothing. He wanted to take everything, the house, the finances, their life. But more than that, he wanted to strip her of her dignity, to walk away while she was left with nothing. She had two choices, leave quietly or fight back. But how? She had no job, no steady income. Walking away meant stepping into the unknown, with 2 daughters depending on her. Fear gnawed at her, whispering that she wasn't strong enough. But then, a different voice emerged, a voice she had silenced for too long. She wasn't just a wife Raymond could discard. She wasn't just a woman trapped in his shadow. She was more than that. And she would prove it. The next day, she confided in her best friend Lauren, who listened intently before taking her hands. "Evelyn, you deserve better than this. You deserve a life where you're not waiting for scraps of love. You can do this." Amelia, her eldest daughter, overheard their conversation. Later that evening, she found Evelyn sitting alone and quietly said, "Mom, I believe in you. No matter what happens, we'll be okay." Tears pricked at Evelyn's eyes. The support from the people who truly loved her was all she needed to make her decision. She called a lawyer. Over the next few weeks, she gathered evidence, bank statements, hotel transactions, phone records. She documented every withdrawal, every lavish dinner, every gift he had bought for the woman he had replaced her with. Piece by piece, she built her case. Raymond had underestimated her. He thought she would crumble, that she would walk away without a fight. But Evelyn was no longer the woman who waited for his affection. She was taking her power back. She looked at herself in the mirror that night, her reflection stronger than she remembered. "Raymond has spent years deciding my fate," she whispered, "but not anymore. This time, I choose my own future." Evelyn stood outside the courthouse, the crisp air filling her lungs as she took a deep breath. The weight of the past years had lifted, replaced by something unfamiliar. Freedom. She had walked into that courtroom as the woman Raymond tried to break, but she had walked out as someone entirely different, someone stronger, someone who refused to be controlled. The verdict had been in her favor. She had secured her share of the assets, won custody of her daughters, and ensured that Raymond could no longer manipulate their lives. He had underestimated her, and now he was the one left with nothing. His mistress had abandoned him the moment his financial security crumbled. He had thought he was untouchable, but in the end, his arrogance had been his downfall. Evelyn didn't look back. There was no satisfaction in watching a man destroy himself. Instead, she focused on the road ahead. A new life. A fresh start. As she walked toward her car, Amelia reached for her hand and squeezed it gently. "I'm proud of you, Mom," she said, her voice filled with admiration. For the first time in a long time, Evelyn smiled, not out of habit, not to mask pain, but because she truly felt it. She didn't know exactly what the future held, but she knew one thing for certain: no one would ever dictate her life again. Evelyn's story is not just fiction. It reflects the reality of many individuals trapped in toxic relationships, feeling powerless and dependent. In today's world, emotional manipulation, financial control, and betrayal are still common issues in marriages. Many people, like Evelyn, sacrifice their careers and independence for their families, only to be left vulnerable when things fall apart.